My friends, welcome to another episode of Diner Talks with James. I'm James, and I'm super pumped to be here with you all, kicking it in the diner. Y'all, I had a fascinating experience in a diner this past week. I was down in Fort Myers, Florida. I was at a place called Biggie's. And I don't know if I've ever seen more Trump memorabilia in an establishment than this place. And everybody in there was wearing Let's Go Brandon shirts. And there was a gentleman who wore a shirt that said, Don't New York my Florida. And, I ate and got out of there, y'all. It is what it is. The food was good, though, and our waitress was incredible. So here we go to a greasy spoon, having a good meal with a fascinating experience. Exactly why I love diners. And I'm in love with you being here with me today, friends. We got a really dope guest coming out. Her name is Summer Owens. She and I have known each other for, I guess it's got to be 3-4 years, give or take a pandemic. And she lit up my world when I met her, and she's been on my list. I met her through the National Speakers Association, and she and I have just crossed paths in a number of ways. And every time I see her, she's just a light, and I'm excited to get to hang out with her in the diner and for you to hang out with us as well. Let me tell you about her. She's been featured, not feared, maybe feared by some. We'll get to that. But she's been featured internationally on CNN and other media outlets for her story of extreme resilience. She's an award-winning author and speaker with honors including the Women of Achievement Heroism Award, Top 40 Under 40. She's also known all over the University of Memphis as just being a damn boss. She's had over 15 years of experience of marketing executive, as a marketing executive with companies including the NBA and FedEx. As a CEO and founder of So What and the So What Foundation and certified So What success coach, she inspires people to live a life of no judgment and no excuses. Let's go. In college, she was a professional runner, but not on track and field, folks. Come on. No, she ran to class, she ran to work, and she helped run many campus organizations, but mostly she ran after her dreams, which she is crushing today. She's also a bargain shopper. I got questions about that, but let's bring her out to the stage right now. Your friend and mine with the hot pink background, Summer Owens.
Hey, James. I love it.
Summer, what's good?
Everything is good. Everything is good. Everything. It's all good.
It's all good.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
How now you're down in Memphis right now, correct?
Yep, I'm in Memphis.
How's Memphis treating you so far?
Memphis is good. I've been here now since 1998. Yeah. So it must be all right, huh?
You're doing something right.
It is good. It's good. Mm-hmm. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, just all the things that you said. It's been a good place for me. It's been a really good place for me.
I love it. That's amazing. Memphis is a cool town. It is a misunderstood town. Memphis is one of those cities that has taken a while to catch up with the times. And segregation was such a huge problem in Memphis, longer than many cities of its size, actually. And it's still impacted today. It's a very divided city. And that causes a lot of people to misunderstand it and not appreciate it. But yeah. I freaking love Memphis.
Yeah.
It's a great, and not just because of Beale Street and not just because of some of those things. I don't care about the ducks in the hotel. Right. Like, good for them. They're adorable. But no. I love that Memphis is trying. I love the barbecue in Memphis. I've had some outrageous fried chicken in Memphis. And I've stopped by the Lorraine Motel and the incredible, powerful Civil Rights Museum that is there. It is just an incredible city. And I love it down there.
I'm impressed, James. You know a lot about Memphis. I love it. Yeah, I got a story. Everything you just said, I got a story. Even the ducks.
Those damn ducks in the Peabody Hotel. That brings me to one of our sponsors of our podcast, the Peabody Hotel in Memphis. No, I'm just kidding. Summer, so where are you born and raised? Where'd you come up?
I'm born and raised just down the street from Memphis, between Nashville and Memphis and Jackson, Tennessee.
Jackson, Tennessee. Okay.
Jackson, Tennessee, but I moved to Memphis in 1997
Mhm.
for college to attend the University of Memphis, which everybody who knows me knows I am a super alum of the
Super
University of
alum.
Memphis. Like a super fan, super alum of
Yeah.
the University of Memphis. And so, yeah, I started my career here after I graduated, and I've been here ever since.
I love it. I love it. I've spoken to the University of Memphis a few times, and whenever I get on stage, I say it's an honor to be here, but y'all root for the wrong Tigers. As a Clemson Tiger alum myself.
Oh, boy.
So-
I am definitely a super University of Memphis Tiger.
Yes,
Yes,
I love it.
yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, so University of Memphis is my thing because I've been really, really blessed, James.
Mhm.
University of Memphis really embraced me as a teen mom. Like I will get into the story, but I was a teen mom at the University of Memphis, and I was able to really push through and to graduate because we both speak to college audiences all the
Mhm.
time, and a big challenge with educators period is just graduation, college completion, right?
Yes.
And so I'm really, really grateful for the support I got from the University of Memphis so that I could graduate and
Mhm.
do the things that I've been able to do. So I was Miss University of Memphis when I graduated. So I'm like,
There you
yeah.
are.
And I've done other stuff for Memphis, and so it's only one Tiger that matters.
Mhm.
Sorry.
One more shot. I respect it. I respect your passion.
Get that in there.
Snuck it in there. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, Summer, this show is called Diner Talks with James. And I think that some of the best conversations in our lives happen late at night over the food we shouldn't be eating with the friends we never want to leave. And so I'm wondering, I know you're a little more grown now, but maybe you still have a late night eating pleasure. So what's your guilty pleasure late at night, or what was it?
What it is now is chocolate and wine. So it's not really a food, but dark chocolate. Let me specify.
Mm-hmm.
Dark chocolate. So the diner food, I do like the diner food, but during the day, not so much at night. And I'm not a big snacker, just being honest. I'm not really a
Mm-hmm.
big snacker. I'm not even a big eater, to be honest. But I love dark chocolate and I love a good glass of wine. And the older I get,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm getting up there, the more I like a good glass of wine.
Now with the dark chocolate, typically you pair red with that. You going red wine with that? You do it right?
Cabernet.
Cabernet all day.
Yep. I like the Cabernet all day.
Put it on her tombstone. Summer Cabernet all day, Owens.
I love it. Has a nice ring to it.
It does actually. That's amazing. Now, as you've also gotten older, have you started to appreciate wines as well? Like are you turning into a sommelier? Or you're like, well, I like Cabernets from Napa Valley or from Australia. Like, are you into that, or it's like as long as it's red and a Cabernet, let's go?
Yeah, I'm not bougie like that.
Okay, good.
Now I have had the pleasure and the privilege to go to Napa Valley and to try different wines.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can taste, appreciate a good wine,
Yeah.
but it doesn't, and I can recognize a cheap wine. But somewhere in the middle, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I appreciate it. I don't know much about wines.
That's what I was about to ask. So are you a wine drinker?
Yeah, no, I know enough. I know enough to have a conversation and make it sound like I know about wine, but that's about where it stops, right? Which is dangerous, right? Someone who knows a little bit but talks a lot is kind of the worst person on earth.
Well, maybe guilty of that too, but
that's fine. Well, I host my own podcast, so here we go. So, and now when it comes to chocolate, you said dark chocolate. Are you a brand? Is there a brand of chocolate that you love? Like, are you Dove dark chocolates all day? Or are you, I don't know, something else? A Lindt? What do you do?
I'm not that bougie on that either.
Okay.
But it's dark chocolate. I don't like milk chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
I could eat it if there's nothing else there. I mean, because it's so funny because a lot of people don't like dark chocolate.
Right.
But
a lot of people are wrong, Summer.
I don't like white chocolate, except James.
Thank you.
I don't. Oh, but I love dark chocolate. There's a guy here in Memphis who actually he's getting really famous, and I'm really, really proud of him. I actually just interviewed him on my podcast.
Oh, cool.
His name is Philip Ashley, and he has a brand called Philip Ashley Chocolates.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes really, really unique chocolates. You have to look him up. And so I really like his chocolates. They're not everyday chocolates though, because they are pretty pricey.
Sure, yeah.
But
Payday chocolates.
what'd you say?
Payday chocolates.
Yeah. Like save up for the chocolate. But he is, yeah. So I like his chocolates. I do like his chocolates too, because like I said, they're really, really, really creative, unique combinations that he does.
Yeah.
But good old Hershey's dark chocolate is good. I'm good with whatever.
I love it.
It's good. Yep.
That's awesome. I'm a fellow chocoholic. Dark chocolate is my favorite, but I will eat all of the other chocolates as well because chocolate. So any chocolate is better than no chocolate as far as I'm concerned.
I love it.
But I was checking Philip Ashley, you said his name was?
Mm-hmm.
I'll
His
check
name
him out.
is Philip Ashley Chocolates.
Okay, sweet. That's awesome.
Yep.
That's great.
And check him out. Like I said, he's on my podcast. I just interviewed him and I'm sharing his story. Yep.
Okay, sweet. Tell everybody, what's the name of your podcast?
It's So What Success Stories with Summer.
So What Success Stories with Summer. Say that 15 times fast.
It is pretty cool. It's just like, it's not just like this, of course, but it's real casual conversations with people just sharing their stories.
I love it. I love it.
Of resilience. Resilience is what I try to focus on.
Okay, amazing. Well, I look forward to being on it. And that's awesome. That's awesome. The the idea that you grew up in Jackson, Tennessee, and now you're living in Memphis. But some things happened in between that. Tell me about real young Summer Owens. Like, when you were in elementary school, what did you want to be when you grew up, Summer? What was your childhood like?
I don't even remember necessarily thinking about what I wanted to be, but because in my childhood, and I share this in my presentations too, I had a nervous condition where, and it's hard to believe now, but I used to twist my hair and pull it out from the root, and suck my thumb. And so my mom ended up cutting all my hair off. And so I had really low haircut, and buck teeth, so my teeth are still big, but big buck teeth. And so I got bullied a lot. And I was really insecure, shy. And I say I was shy, but I don't think I was really shy. I just think I didn't like how I looked, and I didn't want people to see me. And so that made me shy. And so I just remember, if I had to say I had wanted to be something, I just wanted to be confident. Not a career. Can't think right now of a career that I wanted. And again, I didn't have a whole lot of exposure to know what a lot of those options were. But that lack of self-esteem put me in a situation where I got pregnant when I was 15 by someone who told me I was pretty. And I was like, really? And so I ended up letting him touch me a little, and he took it further, and I got pregnant by somebody I didn't really know when I was 15, of course, and that was in my childhood. So I was a teenager, but I was, still a child. And so I had to grow up real fast. And I did. I grew up and raised my son. I pushed through, and that's why I speak on resilience now, is because that was a pretty tough time in my life, but I did graduate from high school, number 8 in my class.
Let's go.
And I was voted most likely to succeed.
Wow.
And I was really grateful that my classmates recognized that in me. And it's pretty cool too. I'll say this, just last night, I had a meeting with my class. We're planning my 25th class reunion, which is weird because I'm just 30.
Right. Yeah. It's weird.
So weird. I don't know how that works, but I was talking to my class last night, and just really grateful. Of course, there were people who judged me and looked down on me, but overall, my class embraced me. And like I said, I was voted most likely to succeed, and I graduated number 8 in my class and got a scholarship to college. And that changed my life. And like I said before, because we speak to students, and mostly college students, we both know the power of that time in your life. And the trajectory it can put you on either way, good or bad, based on those choices. And so I'm really grateful that after that pretty traumatic experience in my life, I was able to to push through and to get to college and get through college.
Yeah, I would say with flying colors as well. That's incredible. With your permission, Summer, can I ask you some more questions about your
Absolutely.
earlier childhood?
Mhm.
So, you mentioned that you were getting bullied and you had this nervous tick where you were pulling out chunks of your hair. Was that something that was, is that something that was it a genetic disorder, or was it like just like true anxiety to the max where that's just what you would do?
It's
Or
called
was it, oh, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's called and I learned later, when I got grown, trichotillomania.
Okay. It
It's
flows
a
off the
real thing.
tongue.
I know, right? I probably even said it wrong. Um, no, it's not genetic to my
Mhm.
knowledge. Somebody might chime in and be like, yes, it is. But to my knowledge, it's not genetic. Nobody else in my family had that experience. My mom basically called it a nervous conditions. Like that's how I dealt with stress, anxiety. Because this was when I was like 3, 4
Wow.
years
Yeah.
old, really, really young. Up until I was 5, and I sucked my thumb, I think probably until like 3rd grade.
Mhm.
But I stopped pulling out my hair, but I would pull it out and ball it up and stick it in my ear. It's weird. My mom said she would find it behind my bed
Yeah.
at night. And I mean, literally from the root. Um, which was why I was like, how in the world? I can't imagine doing that now. But again,
Right.
and it just kind of went away. It went
Mhm.
away on its own, maybe partially because I'm like, I don't like looking like this.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
And maybe eventually it started hurting. I don't know. I know sucking my thumb became a decision where I had to really, really work. I put a Band-Aid on my thumb and it started feeling nasty to keep sucking on a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's how I stopped myself from sucking my thumb, which I do think that was genetic because my son sucked his thumb. And
Mhm.
then my granddaughter even did for a little bit. But yeah, that condition, I don't know. But I know since I wrote it, because I wrote about it in my book, even
Yeah.
I've had several people to message me and tell me that either they or their children have the same experience, that same condition.
Wow, that's fascinating. I
Mhm.
also was a serious thumb sucker. I sucked my thumb so much that I changed the shape of the inside of my mouth, right? And when it came time to get braces, before I was able to get braces on, I had to get one of those jaw wideners. So it like spread it out so then I could get my teeth back aligned. So yeah, I changed the shape of my hard palate because I sucked my thumb for so long.
Me too, James. And from a
Mhm.
V, it's supposed to be a U,
Yep.
and you made it a V. I did the same
Yep.
thing.
Yeah.
Yep, I had to have braces. I didn't have to have a jaw widener, but I had to have several teeth pulled, so that the orthodontist could reshape my mouth. And after
Yeah.
I got my braces off, I almost didn't recognize myself because my face looked different.
Yeah, right? It's
Mhm.
crazy. Yeah,
Yep.
I had like a cathedral ceiling in there.
Mhm.
Um,
And this was in my 30s. I was in my 30s when I got braces.
yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So you really because at that point you're self-aware of how you look also. So you can definitely see some of those changes. Yeah.
Well, I was aware. I was aware, but I was a struggling single mom.
Yeah.
And for a lot of those years, and then like I told you, my son sucked his thumb too, so he did the same thing to his mouth, and I prioritized. That's what moms do. I prioritized him getting braces over me getting braces.
Yeah.
So I did his first. So I was working at FedEx, and I was making a little bit more money and had good dental insurance. I got his first, and then I got mine. And like I said, and honestly, James, it was I started speaking, and I just started speaking, and I'm like, okay, now I may be seen a little
Yeah.
bit more. So let me go on and get this together.
Let me get these teeth right.
Let me go ahead and get this together. I mean, and it's weird too, because I had really come to it wasn't horrible, but it was just I accepted like that's how I look,
Yeah. Yep.
that, my teeth kind of stick out and I got compliments on my smile.
Mhm.
I remember that and looking back on it, I'm like, why are y'all complimenting me? My teeth are all
Yeah, right. I mean,
but
yeah.
I'm glad I got those braces though
Mhm.
now because as you can see now, it's hard to keep my mouth shut. So.
I mean, you have an award-winning smile at this point. I didn't know you back then, but I can compliment you right now.
Thank
Um,
you.
If it's not your smile, it's your personality that lights up the room first. I don't know. It's
Thank
one of,
you.
but yeah, the idea that you were bullied when you were younger, was a lot of that bullying, was that from this was pre getting pregnant? Was it just because of the way you look, you had buck teeth and your hair was super short? Is that why you were typically bullied?
Yeah, so I wrote about this in the book too. So in the first chapter, and I have curriculum that goes with my book. I don't know if I mentioned that to you. We could talk about that some more, but I have workbooks, but I focus on that in the first chapter. So what people said about me, it was about my hair. Oh, you're a boy, and I'm like, what? And it had me thinking, like, do I really look like a boy? And my teeth. But and this is when you think about bullying, where it comes from, and what I really like to talk about too for people who are bullied, I had to understand that a lot of times the bullying had nothing to do with me. It was
Yeah.
about the people. And now it's so cool too, because some of those same people who bullied me are my friends, or
Mhm.
at least people that I know are acquaintances now, Facebook friends and stuff like that. I've had a lot of them come back and apologize and to tell me that the opposite of what I thought. So I thought I looked ugly. I thought something was wrong with me. And the reality was they were just trying to bring me down because they did not think I was ugly. Some of them, that girl, some like, you were so cute, and we just thought you were too cute, and you probably thought you were cute, and we didn't want you to feel like you were cute.
Yeah.
Childish stuff, right? But the
Yeah. Yeah.
reality is a lot of times that is the source of bullying. It's the other person's low self-esteem or issues that they're dealing with, and they want somebody else to feel down too, or be
Mhm.
brought down to their level. And so it was really more that when I look back on it, because even with and I have to show you sometimes, and I share in my presentations, when I look at my pictures where my hair was low, I'm like, I was cute. I was like, I do not look like a boy. I do not look like a boy. And so it's just my own realization of that. And that's why I like talking to young people right now who are
Yeah.
getting bullied, because they don't have name brand clothes and all the other stuff that
Mhm.
people bully them about. It's about loving yourself and embracing yourself, and saying this right here.
Mhm. Saying, "So what?" Yeah,
So
for
what?
sure.
So what?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's funny, I think we as speakers, uh, a lot of times when speakers don't know who they wanna talk to, I encourage them to go back to, what were some of those moments where you changed? Like some of your breakthrough moments, right? And so, I talk about leadership, and where I really learned about leadership was in college, and so I like to talk to college student leaders about that because I know that moment transformed me, and I would love to help more people have that be a pivotal moment for them. And so hearing you talk about how you like to go back and talk to these individuals that are being bullied as youth, for not wearing name brand clothes or looking a little different, acting a little different or whatnot, and just literally trying to make it, right? A lot of middle school and high school is about survival, both socially, and depending on your community, physically.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, I think it's powerful to hear why you work with those people.
Yeah, and in general, I'd like to speak on resilience because it's
Mhm.
about just getting through, right?
Yeah.
So at whatever point, so as a young child, but the real pivotal moment, and I like how you said that about what changed your life. So real pivotal moment for me is at 15, and I became a
Yeah.
mom. And I had to graduate high school, and teenage years are hard for probably most people.
Yeah.
And so add a kid to the mix. And so I like to talk about getting through. And then I was a single mom.
Mhm.
And at that point, I'm an adult and I'm in a career. I'm a young professional, all the things that most of us end up doing.
Yeah.
But I had a child in that. So that's why I like talking about how do you get through when life is hard at
Right.
whatever point. And I
Yeah.
also like talking about leadership too, James, because I did get a leadership scholarship from high school to college. I came on a leadership scholarship,
Mhm.
and I was a leader in high school. Even when I was a mom, I was the
Yeah.
editor of the yearbook staff, and class presidents, and all the stuff, cool stuff. But that was just kind of who I was, that I needed to be involved in stuff. And the same thing in college, even though it was hard. And so I like talking about leadership too, and the lessons that I got from being a parent at
Mhm.
an early age on how I applied that to being a leader.
Yeah.
throughout my life. So I'm with you on that. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, getting pregnant at 15, talk about changing a childhood, right?
Or
And
ending your childhood.
yes, ending a childhood. Yeah, for sure. I'll let you say because you went through it. I don't want to name it. But yeah, ending a childhood, which is it's crazy to hear, right? For most people, as they think about childhood, the fact that happened to you at 15. And so you had mentioned that, this gentleman was one of the first people to ever tell you that you were pretty. And then he took things too far. It sounds like there was some unwanted actions that happened there. And then you're faced with this moment of being pregnant. How was that moment? Were you like automatic, like, boom, okay, I'm going to be a mom? Or, like, there's decisions to be made, and there's, support to be found, and there's a lot of internal work. Tell me, if you're willing to tell me about that moment at 15 where you had to, make some of these decisions.
Yeah. So it was super scary. That's the feeling.
Mm,
Well, that's one feeling. It was like a roller coaster, like all
yeah.
kinds of feelings. Um, so I go really deep into it in my book because I wrote my memoir, which is what changed my life and made me a speaker. Is because I did share all the specific details and around it and the choices. Because yes, there are choices to be made. And at that time, I was totally against abortion,
Mhm.
and I was even against adoption, um, until it happened to me. And then I was in that place of I'm 15, dad, I don't know him, and I have my whole life ahead of me. I don't know, I can't do this. I can't do this. And so
Mhm.
it was a very, very tough time for me. But my mom essentially made the decision for me. And after she found out, because I hid it from her,
Yeah.
like I said, look, this is a plug, shameless plug for the book. Read the book to get the full details. Because it was a journey. It's not it's not a quick story,
Right,
but
yeah.
it was definitely a journey. But then the decision was made, and it was a tough decision, and I was not happy. I was just scared, and I
Yeah.
cried for the majority of my pregnancy. And because I was scared and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I mean, I was a kid, I was a teenager, and
Mhm.
but and even the beginning of his life after I gave birth, I cried quite a bit, and I was feeling sorry for myself. And then the moment came when I'm like, okay, I can keep crying and feeling sorry for myself. And there were still other people who were feeling sorry for me too. But then I realized, uh, how far in life am I gonna get with other people's pity or my pity? Nowhere. And I'm like, okay, Summer, shake this shit off
Yeah.
and figure out what you're gonna do with your life. And that's when I kicked it into gear. I went back to school because I set out, 6 weeks. Went back to school, and I played catch up. I had some teachers who really did care about me and saw that I was working hard. They let me stay after school and make up my work.
Mhm.
And that's how I was able to end up graduating like the top of my class. Yeah, it was a blessing, but that was because I made a decision that I was done feeling sorry for myself, and I wanted to create a good life for myself and for my son.
Mhm.
um it was hard, and then when I say it was hard, I mean up until he was grown, and it's still not easy today. um it's still not. Being a parent it really is a lifelong thing. um but I just made a decision that I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be okay. But yeah, I cried and I hurt and I feared.
Yeah.
I felt a lot of guilt, a lot of things. And then you mentioned support. So I'm blessed because I do have my mom, and I had my grandmother. I ended up moving in with my grandmother. That's another story in the book. Um, but I call them silent cheerleaders, James,
Mm.
because they weren't the ones like, Summer, you got this, you can do this, and they weren't. It was more like, Summer, you got a doctor's appointment. I'll take you to your doctor's appointment. Yeah, you can drive my car. And that was when I was 15. I wasn't even supposed to be driving, by the way. I didn't even have a license, but so they were there, but I didn't have a whole lot of people like come on, come like I am who I am now to
Yeah.
other teen moms. Like, come on, this is what we gotta do. Let's figure this out. Let's make this work. I kind of had to figure a lot of that stuff out. But I'm grateful to for the people who were in my life. I was volunteering at my mom's job when I found out I was pregnant. In the summers, I was volunteering, and the volunteer coordinator, her name is Suzanne Denton. Got to give her a shout out. She is still my friend today. She is almost 80 years old, and she is still a good friend of mine. But she sent me a card every month that I was pregnant, just encouraging me.
Yeah.
I got a card in the mail every month. And then after my son was born, she sent him a savings bond until he was 18. Every birthday, she sent him a savings bond every birthday. And so, and I'm giving that back to her, loving on her back because James, she lost a son in a car accident probably about 15 years ago.
Wow.
And then this past Thanksgiving, she lost another son.
Oh, no.
To cancer. And she had 6 children. She's lost 2 children, and so she lost this last son. And so now I send her a card every month now.
Mm-hmm.
But she did, and I remind her, like I said, my son is 27.
Math's hard, Summer. Math is hard.
That was so many years ago, but it meant so much to me at the hardest time in my life.
Yeah.
So that support system, and then I came to college. I moved to Memphis, like, cause I moved out of Jackson to go to college, and I was a student leader, so I got involved, and I had to give a shout out to Tammy Hedges, who is now the vice president. She's a vice president of marketing and external affairs at the University of Memphis. But when I was in school, she was the director of the Student Activities Council, SAC, and I was in SAC. And she was a supporter for me. She, when my son was too young to go to daycare, her secretary would watch him sometimes. She would have her secretary watch him. She would keep him when I had tests. She was like, Summer, you need to study tonight. He can spend the night with me. He would spend the night with her.
Wow.
She would take him out to eat at restaurants, which is a big deal because I couldn't afford to take him out to eat. And she would buy him toys. I couldn't do that. And so I created a support system at the University of Memphis. And it was because people saw me working. They saw me trying. And a few people loved on me enough to really help me. And that's part of why that's the only Tigers that matter. Yeah, back to that.
I can't even defend it. But yeah, that is it's beautiful to hear how your community rose up for you. Whether it's your mom, your grandma, the volunteer coordinator, and then Tammy Hudgens, you said her name was
Hedges,
excuse me, Tammy Hedges, and her secretary, and to be able to allow you to continue to chase your goal of creating a better life for yourself and for your son, right? Seeing that in you. Being a teen mom, I don't have that experience, believe it or not. But being a teen mom, I really also want to appreciate that, you leaned into the fear and you told us about the fear, because I can only imagine that's not what you pictured for your life. Right. And you had mentioned that you weren't necessarily dreaming about being an X or a Y or a doctor or a lawyer or anything at that point in time. But no matter what, you weren't dreaming about being a mom at 15. And life handed you a deck of cards, and fortunately you had some people that were able to help you play it in a way that has been extremely impressive. And just because I can easily sit here and look at the swath of your life, and I can read your book, Life After Birth, a memoir of survival and success as a teenage mother, and I can read all that, but I have no idea what was actually going on in your head, and what it having to find that balance, because being a parent, Summer, and this is something I think you just touched on, and it's something that's been hard for me to grapple as a new dad, is that it's about finding the balance of good selfish and bad selfish. Like, good selfish is, a lot of parents think they need to take everything and just do everything for their children. And it's all about their children, and they're no longer allowed to have hobbies or time for themselves or joy or goals. And that's that's not necessarily the definition of being a good parent. Um, and I think
Yes.
it's part of it, but I think another huge part of it is that good selfishness where it's like, I need to make sure I'm good. I need to make sure I'm happy. I need to make sure I'm chasing some of my dreams still, because that leading by example is also just as important as some of these other things as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, hearing you talk about that in a very different way that I'm currently experiencing, but at the same time, coming back to that same core message of what you want to do when your dreams matter as well, not at the expense of your children, but for the benefit of everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
and at that time, James, like for me, is yeah, it was they it's not one or the other. For me, it was absolutely if I don't do this selfish, go to school and even be a leader, like
Mhm.
those things were that some people, might have seen those as optional. For me, it was part of my journey and being a better person was taking on these leadership roles in college and even throughout my career. And it was one to be an example, but then two, like those are the things that are going to help me to be able to provide financially for a better life for us. By me being able to say I accomplished these things. So it was, yeah, sort of selfish, but it was like still it's ultimately for that child. It
Yes.
still is for that child. But then too, like now that I have been an empty nester for over a decade, isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Um, to think you have to think about yourself and do things for yourself because the time will come when the child is not there in your house, and you need to know who you are and have an identity outside of being the parent. And I say that because I know lots of people who are all in for their kids, which you should be to a good extent, but then you're nothing without them. And you got to find the right balance in that too.
Yes. Yeah. Beautifully put. Beautifully put. You mentioned that you were a super alum at Memphis, right? You went all the way through your MBA over there, casual.
No, actually, the MBA came from Belhaven University, which
Oh,
I like Belhaven too, but it's
Memphis.
a
I hope
little.
you're not listening. Memphis. I hope you're not listening right now.
I know they know that secret. They know that I stepped away. I just had to see what it's like, like
Yeah.
like I tell young people too that they're all in love and dating in high school and college and stuff. I'm like, date some other people
Uh-huh.
just to make sure that's what you really, really want. So it's kind of the same thing. But
I agree.
I did get my MBA from Belhaven University. They have a satellite campus here in Memphis, and so when I was working for the Memphis Grizzlies, I got my MBA over there. But
Okay.
but Memphis has my heart. Has my heart.
Okay. Perfect. You good. You good. You're safe here. Uh, so you got to do some pretty incredible things, right? You said you work for the Grizzlies, you work for FedEx. You put your leadership skills into practice with some of these incredible organizations. How did that come about?
Well, when I graduated from the University of Memphis, I was trying to find a job, and I was shocked. I was shocked at the time to see how hard it was for
Mhm.
me. And I say the reason why I was surprised, James, is because I worked really, really hard when I was in school. I was a graduated magna cum laude.
Yep.
I was a student leader, so I had all that stuff under my belt. I had some good experience there. I was Miss University of Memphis, and I had done an internship for 3 years. So I was like, "Oh yeah, no brainer. I'm gonna find a job." But I was surprised that it was actually pretty difficult for me to even get an interview, and that was
Mhm.
hard. I talk about that in the book too, um, and I talk about the challenge of that. But then it was at that time, and I'm a woman of faith, James, and so I see how God works in my life. Sometimes it's afterwards that I
Mhm.
see it, but I ended up getting a job. I'll leave short of that story, the journey to that out. But the Memphis Grizzlies announced that they were moving to Memphis, Tennessee, from
Mhm.
Vancouver, Canada, that same year after I graduated. And I remember saying, man, it would be really cool to work in promotions, is what I said, for the Memphis Grizzlies. I was like, it'd be cool. And so they came and they had these mass interviews for a sales position. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I just want to get my foot in the door. I hated sales. I had done an internship in marketing for Hilton Hotels Corporation for the 3 years that I was there. They actually had offered me a sales position. I'm like, I don't want to do sales. But then here come the Grizzlies and they're offering doing these interviews. I was like, I just want my foot in the door. And it was really, really a blessing because thousands of people applied. And I think they were feeling like 30 temporary sales positions to
Yeah.
really sell these season tickets. And I got it. I got one of them as my first job out of college. And I worked hard trying to prove myself because they were temporary, only 4-month positions.
Oh, wow.
Only
Okay.
4 months. And so in that 4 months, I'm like, I gotta earn a job, a real job. And I did. And I got hired as a marketing coordinator. And then a few months later, I got hired as a marketing assistant. And that quick story was the marketing director needed an assistant, administrative assistant, and she was hiring for a marketing coordinator. I applied for the um, marketing coordinator position, and she said she didn't feel like I was qualified to be the marketing coordinator, and she felt like I was overqualified to be the assistant. So she made me a marketing assistant. I
Oh.
was like, well, whatever,
Whatever.
just give me a job.
Hire me.
Just give me a job. And she did. And a few months later, she made me marketing coordinator anyway.
Mhm.
And then we built FedEx Forum Arena. I love this history. We built FedEx Forum Arena, which was part of the stipulation. I don't know how much you probably know because you know so much about Memphis. As part of the stipulation of us getting the team here in Memphis
Mhm.
was building a new arena. So then we built the arena, and they needed a marketing manager. And who was in place?
How you
I
doing?
I got it. I became the marketing manager. So I was the first marketing manager for FedEx Forum Arena.
Wow.
And I was a marketing manager for the arena, which was the events, the concerts, the dirt shows, the ice shows, all of that,
Mhm.
and the basketball team. And so yeah, it was a blessing. So I got that position and I was able to grow. I was able to hire people.
Mhm.
And I'm looking back, I'm like, I was like 22, 24. And I'm like, I was super young, but it was so awesome. The experiences I was able to get at a very, very special time. I have some cool stuff here too. I don't know if you can see that. This was from the very first game ever played here.
Wow, that's awesome.
It says, thanks for making history. So this is from the very first game.
That's such a cool ticket too.
2001, November 1st, 2001.
Mhm.
And it's got my name on it and everything. So it was cool.
That's all. I see the Grizzlies, yeah, the basketball behind you also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So from the team, so that was when I left the Grizzlies. I got my MBA, and I was like, okay, it's time to work a little bit less because I was working my butt off, like games, events, all that, and I was a single mom. And so I got my MBA during that time, and I'm like, okay, it's time for me to go make some money. And so they gave me that basketball. I don't know if you can see that. That was a FedEx Forum Arena, a print of FedEx Forum Arena, and that was signed by the team,
Oh, that's awesome.
the staff, and then the basketball signed by the team. So this is my shelf of cool stuff. I got a
You're
lot.
right. You're right. Stuff that you earned though, from leaving your mark, leaving a legacy. That's incredible. I
Thank
love that,
you.
Summer. That's so cool. And you get your MBA, and that's when you start to work for FedEx, right?
So after I got my MBA, and I don't talk about it a whole lot, but I went to work for Service Master.
Okay.
Service Master, I worked for Service Master Clean franchise and a
Mhm.
company called Furniture Medic, which was also a franchise company. And I only was there about a year and a half, because I had to travel a lot. It's so
Okay.
funny. It's like I'm like I had to. It's so funny with our words, right? I had to travel a lot, and that was tough because again, I'm a single mom,
Yeah.
and my family does not live here, and so that was really, really difficult for me having to travel because I was the marketing manager. So I worked with
Mhm.
franchise owners across the country,
Right. Yeah.
on their marketing, and I did trade shows and stuff like that. But it was tough to travel, and so When I had an opportunity to pursue something else, I got the job at FedEx and I left. Like I said, not long after I started there. But it's so cool though, because I'm glad now because, and I even talk about this, is changing our wording. And was able to survive that time in Service Master because I stopped saying I had to travel and started saying I get to travel.
Yeah,
And
power
so
of language.
yep, I was like, I get to, because it was a blessing. It's a wonderful opportunity. A lot of people don't get to travel, right?
Mhm.
It was just a challenge for me um to be able to take advantage of the opportunity. So I had to make some changes. And then I went to FedEx and it was a better situation for me because I got to travel, but I had more of a choice on when I traveled,
Yeah.
and what opportunities I was able to take advantage of. So,
Mhm.
yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, Summer, we fast forward this incredible experience with the Grizzlies and getting to get them to start from the bottom. Now they're here. And
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
I've never made it to a Grizzlies game. I got to do that next time I'm in town. Um, but,
Yes.
uh, but yeah, so we get to work with the Grizzlies and we get our MBA. We have this short stint at this franchise company. And then we're with FedEx. And at some point in time, you say, yeah, but I got a story to tell. And I got a hell of a story, right? And you write your book, and then you start to get up on stages. How did the transition of being a speaker start?
So yeah, first of all, let me say this: I never, ever, ever saw that for my life. I never saw an entrepreneur, period,
Mm.
for my life. So I got to FedEx, and I'm like, this is where I'm going to retire.
This is it.
This
Yeah.
is it. I mean, and a lot of people here in Memphis, if they do work for FedEx, say that because it is a great company and the pay is good. That's always important, right?
Mhm.
The culture is great. That's really important. But then also FedEx is so big that you can work for that company, have several careers. So even in the time that I was at FedEx, I had several different managers and I worked in small business marketing. I worked in advertising as well. And I could have gone to other areas of marketing, even just in marketing, could have definitely had a full career being at one company. But I was going through another so what time in my life. I was going through a divorce. I had made the decision and I got married. And it was not good. It was not right.
Mhm.
It was a very, very hard time in my life. And that's when I moved out with my son, single mom again, because I was only in that situation for about a year and a half.
Mhm.
And I was hurting again.
Yeah.
And so two things. One, I was hurting, I was dealing with that. And then also my son became a teenager and that became more challenging. And I was able to see past myself and I was able to see that I could speak to people and young people, I was thinking especially girls, and they were listening to me when they weren't listening to their parents. And at the same time, I could see my son needing what I was giving to other people. So he
Mhm.
needed a man to talk to him that wasn't his parent. So I said, let me do that. So I just started talking to young people, especially. And then I started writing because writing, I've always liked writing. And so I started writing, which was therapeutic for me at that time while I was hurting.
Yeah.
And I said, I didn't feel like, oh, I have this powerful story. I didn't, you said that. I didn't feel like that. I just felt like I need to write for me to
Mhm.
feel better. And then at the time when I was writing, though, I was able to see past myself. I'm like, oh, I was a teen mom, but so many teen moms are not where I am. 'Cause
Mhm.
I had owned a house before. I was living in an apartment then. It was because I had, moved out from my husband, but I had owned a house. I had a career. I had my vehicle. I was self-sufficient. And so I said, what is the disconnect? Like, why? Why is that the case? And I said, now I need to tell my story. I'm going to write my story. So while it feels good for me to just be writing anyway, I'm going to write my story because I want some teen moms to see that I grew up relatively poor,
Mhm.
definitely lower middle class, and I had my father in my life, but he wasn't really there. I had challenges too, right? but I made it through, and this is how I did it. And I felt like it was important for me to go all the way back and share the full story. And so I just wrote my book, and my hope was that some teen moms would see it and see I can make it too. Statistically, I think, and the statistics might have changed since I last did the research, but only about a third graduate from high school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Because
Crazy.
remember, I
Yeah.
graduated number 8. I was voted most likely to succeed. I was like, you don't have to do all that, but you can graduate. I have no doubt that you can graduate. And then only about 3% complete college. And I'm like, what? That's
Yeah.
crazy. Because
Right.
again,
Yeah.
I was Miss University of Memphis. I graduated magna cum laude. I'm like, no, you can. I don't care who you are or what your situation is. You can graduate from high school, you can graduate from college or some other post-secondary opportunity. And so that's why I wrote the book. But then the book took off.
Mm-hmm.
And so many other people started reading it that were not teen moms. Teen moms were, but then other educators and parents and men were reading, saying, now I understand single moms more, or I now understand my daughter more.
Yeah.
And it just became
That's
something
powerful.
else. And people started asking me to speak. And I was shy, like I said, when I was younger, I thought, but then I got fired up though when people would ask me if I would come and talk, and people would line up to talk to me afterwards. And I'm like, what is this? And then I knew I had to leave FedEx
Yeah.
and spend the time while I feel younger and look a little bit younger, and people can, young people can, I felt like, receive me better.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta get out there and get this in front of them as much as I possibly can. And I felt like, I still feel like help them make some better choices before they end up in a situation that's really, really hard to get out of. Or if they're already in that situation, to show them that they can still be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how.
Yeah.
That's how I became a speaker.
That's it. Just that. Summer, that is incredible. And you list those statistics, and as you were telling me your story earlier, I was like, this doesn't feel like the normal, right? Like your ability to have that kind of support system around you and your drive to still complete what you did and conquer what you conquered, all while being a wonderful mother, is it's a lot. And it is it's not your average teen mom's story, and the statistics, as you learned, showed you that, and it's powerful to hear you talk about what's possible. Now, not everybody, you have to have a number of things lined up, and you have to have some of those folks that you had. Then not everybody has that community around them like you did, and so, but I love how you have turned your story into a place to help others feel seen, feel heard. And the fact that you have men reading it and learning about single mothers and learning about women in general, that is powerful, that you have created this opportunity to open eyes, and open eyes to possibility, or open eyes to just a learning experience, whatever it may be for whoever a reader is, or now a listener is. It's really beautiful, Summer. And it's cool to watch. And the way that, you're such a dynamic speaker as well. And so you're great at what you do. So I'm glad you punched that shyness in the face, or at least punched it in the face for your ability to stand on stage for that hour, whatever it is. But I know you also now teach confidence classes and things like that. So resilience is what it all comes back to for you. And yes, you talk about leadership, yes, you talk about confidence, but I think the trunk of your tree is resilience, and how confidence stems from that, and how leadership can stem from that, or et cetera, those kind of things. So I'm wondering, how do you define resilience?
Yeah. So I want to say this first, because I like
Please.
to make sure this is clear. Because people, resilience comes down to also not making excuses, right? And a lot of people can use this as an excuse, and this is why I want to talk about it, is that they don't have the support system. Because you talked about this support system that I had around me, and that not everybody has this support system. So I want to because there are many times in my life where I felt like I didn't have the
Mm,
support that I
mm,
needed. And people on the outside looking in, people thought I had this amazing support that I actually did not have. I'm grateful for the support that I did have, but there was a lot of support that I didn't have. And then I also like to talk to young people or people period about support and recognizing what is the support around them and why I had the support I did have, and for them to see what support do they have. So
mm,
for example, especially with the school for teen moms, where not especially but including school for teen moms, where I've been a mentor for over a decade. And a lot of them have some really tough family situations, really challenging family situations. And mine was better, for lack of a better word. Mine was better. However, what I like to explain to them is they have the support of the school, so they can bring their children to school. They don't have to look for a babysitter. They do sometimes have challenges getting to school, which I get that, and I had that. But then they have their children. They can bring them there to have childcare. But then all of and I'm even dealing with a situation right now with one of my mentees, right? Um, a lot of times people have support that they don't appreciate and they don't recognize. And a
mm,
lot of our young people have support that they even push away because they are maybe not saying the things that they want to hear.
mhm.
And so the support, I believe, is always there. No matter who you are, what your situation is, the support is there. It may not be from the person you think it should be, you know,
Yeah.
it may not look exactly like you think it should look. But it's your job to recognize where it is and to be somebody that's easy to support. Because again, and you probably know of examples like this too, where I want to support you. I would love to support you. But guess what? You aren't doing your part. If you aren't doing your part, then it's hard for somebody to support you. And I think that I was able to build the support system and get the support that I did get because
Mm,
I was working my ass off. I was doing a lot of work myself, not sitting around saying, "Hey, help me, help me, help me." I was doing what I needed to do. And so that's our responsibility, is to put in the work and then to recognize where the support is. And so back to your question about resiliency, like, I mean, the short answer is the book definition. Essentially, is the ability to bounce back from challenging times.
mhm,
Because and that's true. I don't care who we are. And that's why I like, my brand, So What, is saying so what when life is tough and life is unfair, or you mess up, you make bad choices. But how can you bounce back from that? And so that's my definition of resilience, is understanding when I could have done something different and I didn't, but I can make another decision going forward. Or this really messed up thing, unfair thing happened in my life, but how do I move forward? How do I do something different? How do I still create success out of it? And for me too, the most fun thing is taking that very thing, that very hard thing, that unfair thing, that bad thing, or that mistake, and using that thing in and of itself to create something beautiful from it. And not just beautiful, but beautiful because it's helping you, and more importantly, it's helping other people. And
mhm.
so that has been my resilience journey, my resilience life, is like, hey, I get it. That's, and when people say stuff to me and messed up things that happen to them, I say, so what? And sometimes that's hard to hear,
Yeah.
because sometimes we want people to say, oh, that's so terrible. I feel sorry for you. And I can say that. But then the next thing I'm going to say is, okay, so what? Now what are we going to do? Now what are we
Mhm,
going to do? How are we going to move forward from that? Because, or we can sit in this, or we can sit in this and we can cry and we can just, hug each other and hold each other all day and next week and next year. And guess what? We're gonna still be sitting here hugging each other, crying the next year and the next year. Or we can allow ourselves some time to grieve that thing. And then
mhm.
like, okay, how are we moving forward from it? And so that's what resilience is for me, is just recognizing how do you move forward, and focusing more on the solution than the problem, acknowledging the problem, but focusing on the solution.
Mm. Acknowledging the problem, but focusing on the solution. I like that, Summer. I like that. And I really appreciate you pushing back on what I said, because I don't have your experience, right? So I'm glad that you talked to me and clarify what I said about the what support looks like, what your support looked like in particular. So I appreciate you clarifying. That was important, and I'm really glad that you did that.
No, I appreciate that, James. I had to do that simply because, like I said, I think a lot of people don't move forward, are not able to move forward. It's like, well, I didn't have the support she had,
Yeah.
or comparing themselves to any other
Right.
situation. It's not just about teen pregnancy, it's just period, right? I
Mhm.
don't have the support. So, well, I can't do what she did. I'm like, no, we got to look at it differently.
Yeah.
We all have different support, and everything is about perception too, right? So for people to even perceive their own lives and their own situations in a different way, so
Yeah.
that they can move forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It goes back to it reminds me of a piece of your story that you told us earlier, where you had just mentioned that the support isn't necessarily always going to come from exactly where you want it to come from, and that doesn't mean it's not around. And I bet that volunteer coordinator that you were telling me about, that your mom, like, you didn't expect her to show up for you on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, right? And it's funny sometimes when someone like that shows up, we almost write them off, where it's like, you just feel bad for me, so you sent me a card. But it was that commitment. I define commitment as patience plus persistence. And that's really what this woman was for you, right?
Mhm.
She was persistent in that every month you're going to catch one of these cards, right? But she was also patient. She wasn't necessarily coming in and trying to do everything for you. And it was
Yeah.
a beautiful commitment to being a support system for you that she displayed. And I think there's so often in our lives, we don't acknowledge our cheerleaders because our cheerleaders aren't the exact people that we wanted them to be. And I thought about this a long time when I was young, even, and just how this applies to a whole bunch of different areas of our life. There were moments when I was younger where I really wanted to date people. And I was like, I just want to make out with somebody, right? Like, I was young kid, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't really have any game back in the day. My smoothness came too late. But still,
It came right on time, James.
yeah, I guess so, maybe. It did, because I landed the woman of my dreams, so we good.
Yeah.
But still, it is it is but I still can remember younger just being like, nobody likes me, no one ever thinks I'm attractive, no one this. And it
Mhm.
wasn't that no one did, it was just that the few people that I really wanted to see me didn't. But there
Yep.
were other people that I never acknowledged them, and therefore also never allowed myself to feel attractive, because it was this one person didn't find me attractive, so therefore I wasn't attractive, right?
Mhm.
It's similar to
Mhm.
what you're saying, where it's like, well, I'm not getting support from this one person, so therefore, bing
I'm
bang,
not getting.
I'm not
Mhm.
getting support. So I
Mhm.
think that was a really instrumental thing that you shared there.
Thanks.
And yeah, that was beautiful. And something else that you touched on with that I'm glad you brought up. I knew we would get here, and I'm excited that we are there. Is that you have this mantra of "so what," and I'm gonna have you tell people what "so what" means. But initially, when you hear, okay, I'm a resiliency speaker, and I tell people "so what," it sounds a little cold, right? But I love how the way you just described it. It's not that there's an absence of empathy. There isn't an absence of listening. There isn't an absence of dealing with grief. It's just that at some point in time, we have to get to a place where we acknowledge the problem, but work towards the solution. Like you said, I mixed up your words a little bit there.
No, you got it.
And so it is, tell us a little bit about what "so what" means.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I got there first. So I never had any desire to be a speaker or an entrepreneur at all. But after I wrote the book and people started reading it, people started asking me to speak. And so then I started sneaking out on my lunch at work. And I was gone like 2 hours, 3 hours at a school. And then after work, people would ask me to speak. So I started doing it. And I'm like, what is this? Maybe this is a business or a brand. And I'm a marketer. All
Uh-huh.
my career has been in marketing. And so I'm like, what is this? And I never will forget. I went to sleep one night and I woke up in the middle of the night and all I could hear was, so what? So what? So what? And I'm like, now I'm a big fan of Oprah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I'm a big Oprah fan. I even had a chance to go to Harpo Studios when I did Oprah's
Cool.
favorite things. When I worked at FedEx, FedEx does the delivery for Oprah's favorite things. I don't know if you remember Oprah's favorite things, um, but I had a chance to work with Adam Glassman, who was the editor of O magazine, and then I went
Mhm.
to Harpo Studios in Chicago, and so I got to do a lot with that, which was really really cool. Everything except meet her because she wasn't there that day, but
Rude.
all right, rude. Uh, but you know how it was Harpo Studios, which is her name backwards, right?
Mhm.
And so I loved how she did that. And so when I woke up with so what in my mind, it was like everything that I'm doing is so personal to me. I was like, my name is in it, the SO.
Yeah.
Um, but it was thinking back to all the times people had said things to me about what they wanted to do and why they couldn't, or all this self-pity and feeling sorry for themselves, and that's what I would say in my mind, and not always to them, but I would kind of say it to them even if not in
Mhm.
those words. It's like, okay, like I'm tired of hearing all the reasons why you can't. Like, so what? Your dad wasn't there, or so what? Your parents are on drugs, or so what? You aren't rich, or so what? You don't have the name brand clothes, or so what? Like, how are you going to do it if this is what you want to do? And so that's why the little words in there. So now what? So it's the big so what? Like the first thing you kind of got to get jolted in your spirit
Mhm.
is, so what? Like, stop talking about that thing and focus more on how you're going to get past it. So that's how so what came to be. And then that's what it means is, it doesn't mean you don't care. It simply means you care more about the solution than you do the problem. And
Mhm.
and just saying so what is taking away the power from the problem, from the challenge, from the trauma even, is it's taking away that power and putting the power back in your hands to do something about it. And that's one thing that James, a big pet peeve of mine is helplessness. And
Mm.
and in the research of what I've been doing since I've started speaking, learned the term learned helplessness. And so what combats that? So learned helplessness is just a feeling and a thought in your mind that you can't do anything about the situation.
Yeah.
Like all these things happen in your life, or you're in this particular situation, it's like nothing you can do about it. And the reality is, in most situations in our life, we can do something about it. If you don't like it, you can probably do something, whether that's getting counseling or it's actually taking a step like go to school, or whatever. In any situation, I feel like in almost every situation, there's something you can do about it. But it starts with first saying, so what?
Yeah.
So what? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. So what?
Mhm.
So you like, because
Yeah.
I say too, you can pity somebody into a grave.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we know people that are in that cycle, right? That we know people that are in that cycle of, just feeling bad for themselves or focus way more on the problem and the things that they can't control around it as opposed to the things they can control, right? Because I can list a whole bunch of things that I can't control and I can get real frustrated about them, but at the end of the day, I'm still not going to be able to do anything about them. So what focusing on what we can control is also important, and it takes a minute to differentiate between those two,
Mhm.
right? It's not just something that we immediately jump into.
Well, I'm glad you even said that because, again, I told you I'm a woman of faith, and this actually comes from Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a serenity prayer, and but for me, it's a faith thing too. Is God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, right?
Mm.
So that's first saying, so what?
Yeah.
My mom, so, I like to give the example of I didn't know my father because so many young people I work with, that's their sad reality.
Mhm.
Or I didn't have my father in my life. So what? Serenity prayer, equivalent, accept it.
Mhm.
Can't change it, right?
Yeah.
But continue with the serenity prayer, but the courage to change the things I can. That's the so now what? Do something about it. If you can do something about it, then do something about it. And then the last part is the wisdom to know the difference, which is what you said. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate, but in most cases, there is something you can do about it. So, in the fact that you don't know your father, that's the so what. The so now what is now you can embrace the people, the men maybe who are trying to be a father figure to you.
Mm.
Or now you can, when you have the opportunity like James now to be a father, you can say, I'm going to be the best father that I can be.
Mm.
So there are still things that you can do in almost any situation. Instead of feeling sorry for yourself and wallowing in the pity, or even accepting all the pity from other people, just like, okay, whatever, no matter how bad the situation is, there's probably something you can do. And again, that something might just be talking to somebody or getting
Yeah.
counseling or getting advice. And in the situation where you just said it's hard to know the difference, then maybe you don't rely on your own mind. Maybe you talk to somebody else to help, for them to help you understand the difference. What do you think about this situation? What do you think I could do? Or what would you do in this
Mhm.
situation? And then it's like, oh, okay, that's something I can do.
Novel. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And all of us are get in that situation. I mean, even me. Sometimes I
Mhm.
can get in a situation where I'm feeling sorry for myself, I'm feeling bad, and I'm feeling like there's nothing I can do. But then I have to, you know, eat my own medicine, take my
Mhm.
own medicine, and I'm like, okay, yes, I can do something about this. And I'm
Yeah.
not I believe we do have to grieve and feel bad, and because I'm not that person just like suck it up, suck it up. I'm not that person. Well, I am that person, but after you accept it and grieve and understand, feel the hurt, feel it,
Yeah.
feel it.
Mhm.
You need to feel it. But the problem comes with us when we feel it too long and we decide to live there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. That was right here at the end, Summer Owens out here taking us to church, literally. Literally. And I love it. That was so well said, and I'm grateful for the way that you put that. I'm also appreciative of the action oriented nature of what you're going through, but also the fact that empathy isn't absent from it. Right, like you're allowed to feel sad for yourself a little bit. You're allowed to be upset and you're allowed to dwell for a minute. But at some point in time, you got to keep it pushing. Right? There is life to be lived. There are more years ahead of us. There are days, hours, minutes that we can capitalize on. And so, how are we going to keep it pushing? How are we going to take the power back, like you said earlier? How are we going to grab the pen to our own story and write what we want to write? And I love that, Summer. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, talking to us about your story of beautiful resilience and of triumph, but not without its stories in the middle there, and not without its slips and its struggles, for sure. I appreciate you a lot, Summer. I learned a lot from you today and with you.
Thank you, James. It was such a pleasure. Thanks
Yes.
for having me in the diner.
Summer, let people know, how can they stay in touch with you?
The best way is to go to my website, which is summerowens.com. My name, summerowens.com. And all my social media links are there. I love YouTube. I have lots of videos on YouTube. Again, I focus on resilience and leadership, where I have messages there. My So What success stories, the interviews that I do with people. But I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you know what? I'm even trying to dabble in TikTok.
Look out.
But go to my website and you can connect with me everywhere there.
Yeah.
Summerowens.com.
Summer, thank you so much for kicking it in the diner with me, friend. It's so great spending this time with you.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, James. Good catching up with you.
Great catching up with you. Y'all, that was my time with the one and only Summer Owens. Wow, what a story, my friends. What a story. And I just love hearing her talk about resilience in that way, because a lot of us just get stuck and stay stuck. But at some point in time, it is a choice to stay stuck. And we have to recognize that. I'm someone who doesn't always recognize when those who love me are trying to love me, because I'm more interested in this one person loving me or this other person helping me. Or I think it just needs, the way I'm going to get out of this mess is by doing this one thing, but that one thing keeps getting thwarted. And instead of seeing the options. And so I love the way that Summer Owens talks about resilience, and I love hearing her story too. What a powerful story. Shout out to the Clemson Tigers, the real Tigers. And now that she can't hear me, I'm allowed to say that. I'm just kidding. Shout out to Memphis Tigers as well. Love them down there. And thank you so much for kicking it with Summer and I today. Until the next time we get to hang out, friends, do me a favor, keep punching small talk in the face by asking better questions. You all take care.